Hello and welcome to check top of screen Pop Culture Comic Stash. We've had a rebrand.
You did it beautifully. Do we do I confess? Like I just had to confess to you as to why we had a rebrand.
Or we could let them guess, and we'll
Yeah,
tell you next week.
yeah. Why a rebrand happened?
Yes,
It's a classic story, like all comic book stories of villainy, heroism, etc., etc., etc. Or it's something a bit dumb because it's us.
we'll let you decide.
Yeah,
So it is that time of the month again, and I forgot my crystal ball. It's on the side because we were gas bagging for too much longer beforehand. But it
yeah, we were.
is time to look into the crystal ball that I don't have and see what is coming out for the back end of the year in November slash beginning of December, because all of the solicits seem to have first week of December and stuff as well, which I didn't realize until the end of it.
Yeah, I must admit, like I tend to on a lot of them look at the dates, but this one I just didn't. I just went, is it under the banner of November 23? If yes, you're in.
Yeah.
Um, because like not to say that we're lazy, and when I say we, I'm lazy, but there are sometimes where you're looking at it and you're just going, oh God, I've put these down without thinking of the dates. This will be a right ball late to go back through them again.
So before we divulge what we're looking forward to in the coming months,
Yes.
shall we dissolve what we've been reading
Yes, what we've
in
been
our
up to
corners?
in our grubby little corners. Let's do this.
Happiness is just around the corner.
So, what have you got? What have you got? What have you been reading? Not what have you got?
So nothing new this week. It's just been a couple of catch ups
Oh,
of things. I have read the latest Superman Mushy.
oh
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
I don't know what it is about this fucking series, but it's
Still
got me.
addicted? Still
Yeah,
addicted?
every time I see there's a new one, I'm like, oh, what's he eating this
Is
time?
it is it up to issue 4 now, or is
Four,
it?
yes.
Yeah,
It's everything about this I shouldn't get behind. It's basic. There's no real story there other than what random food, Japanese food, is it that Superman is going to order. And in this fourth one, he takes Batman with him, so it's like, what food is he giving Batman as well?
is it the one? Is it the cover where Batman's kind of riding on his back as he's flying?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm just like, I shouldn't, but yeah, it just keeps fucking pulling me in. This, and I don't know how many there is in total or how long this is going on for,
Well,
but
I'm hoping for your sake it stops at some point, but also for my sake, I hope it runs to about 1,000 issues, so that in 1,000 episodes time, or probably longer than that, you'll be going, "I'm still reading it."
and I don't
They've
know why.
they've run out of foods. They've covered every food ever, but I'm still reading it.
Yes, that and also the latest two issues of Peacemaker Tries Harder. Um, I really like this. This is very much playing in the Peacemaker from the TV show version of Peacemaker.
Yeah,
Silly
that's the
humor.
feeling I got when we saw it in the solicits, that it was
Yeah,
going to be like, yeah, leaning into TV land.
yeah. Silly humor is ridiculous. Um, just shooting and killing things for the sake of shooting and killing things, which we love. You know, I do enjoy those sort of things. I think there's only two more issues left in the run,
Yeah, I
so I think
think
it's
it's
only
quite a
a
short run, isn't
six-ish
it? Yeah.
run. But yeah, it is definitely filled the Peacemaker itch and void that I had since the show finished.
Well, I've not seen the internal art, but certainly I've seen the covers when it's been coming onto Ultra, and I do like it's Steve Pugh. I do like the art style. I'll be honest. I just yeah, it you know that it's down on my list because I wasn't a big fan of the movie. I've not seen the TV show, but I wasn't a big fan of the movie Peacemaker, and so I'm kind of very tentative about getting into this, but maybe at some point. Maybe at some point I'll jump in. Depending on, because I still haven't read, and I will pick it up. That Where Monsters Lie, which is something I know you'd mentioned before, like
Yeah.
having read the first issue, and that's Cole Stark's the same writer, and I think if I read that in a not too distant, and I love that, I think it might tease me into seeing what else, i.e., Peacemaker, his modern kind of writing, and what he can do in the the superhero verse. But I guess Peacemaker in this sort of thing is less
Yeah.
hero-y and more vigilante-y, if
Yes.
that's a word, which it isn't. I know that isn't a word, but
So that has reminded me. I need to contact Abstract to see if the collected of Where Monsters Lie when that's coming out, because that for some reason issues 2, 3, and 4 never got posted into the UK.
yeah, I seem to remember you saying something about that, because we had that problem, didn't we, for a period of time there where um, imports into the UK were struggling quite heavily, weren't they? So
Yes.
yeah,
So
it
yeah,
does
so,
suck. Like,
I'm waiting for the collective for that. So I had issue 1, and that's where it ended because I couldn't get any more. I could have probably looked for the digital ones, but I don't. I wanted pretty copies in my hands.
so as an update, and of course this will probably be pending imports still working. The trade paperback or the collected edition for Where Monsters Lie is due to release on the 4th of October. So not a million miles away.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And you'd
So
like to think that those don't get held up, because like that
yeah,
is big money makers, isn't it, for these companies when the
yeah,
collected editions come out, get them onto some bookshelves as well as comic book shelves.
yes. So what have you been up to in your filth corner?
So you said about becoming obsessed with Superman eating. I haven't been reading anything about eating, I promise, but when people talk about the concept of comfort eating. So
Yeah,
maybe it's been a bit of a shitty week or anything like that. So you get some food you really like and you nom 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 nom. I did that similar thing, but I did it with comic books this week. So I went into a comfort reading. It's been quite a long and hectic week in my world. Not one that I've enjoyed massively, I'll be honest, from a work-based one. So time has been limited, but I thought, well, with my limited time, um, just go back to an old favourite, and if anything, go right the way back to our first ever episode, our origin, and also our favourite storylines. I went back and reread for God knows how many at the time. The Avengers story, the Siege on Avengers Mansion. So technically, it runs from issue 271 to 277, but I only did 273 to 277 because the kind of preceding bit is almost the end of a previous storyline, but it starts to give you the teasers and hints of what to come. And I have talked about it before, so I won't go into it too much, other than no matter how many times I read this, I never lose my love for it. And
mm,
bearing in mind, every time I read it, like it's probably close to a year further away from when it was written. And I'm not going to say that it hasn't aged at all, because things do age. It was many years ago that it was released, but it doesn't feel horrifically aged. If anything, the thing that really makes it show any aging at all is just what's happened to the characters since. Like that
yeah,
kind of many years of many stories, including like the movies and the TV. So it is like Roger Stern written, John Buscema art, beautiful art, fantastic. Still my favourite Avengers writer of all time. But it it was ahead of its time, I think, as well. Like really doing a story about the bad guys
mm,
winning. And they don't ultimately win, spoilers, but winning for a large part of it, but winning in quite nasty ways. And it just wasn't stuff you were seeing in Marvel comics at the time. So yeah, it was a comfort read only for me, and I bloody loved it. And I'm pleased to say that I don't think I'll ever stop loving it, because I think it will always just be special for me.
yeah.
Special.
Anything else, or was it just that this
No,
week?
that was
It
just
was
that. As I
something
say, it's
nuns.
it's been very tight on time, so I wanted something that I knew I'd love.
Yeah. So we shall look into the future, and we will start with DC because that's the one I did first. Because that's the first one I saw. So I'll let you scroll down to your
Thank
wherever you
you.
were on
I'm
your
glad.
list,
I'm glad you realised that I was doing
because I
that.
realised what you were doing. So I will go
Quick
first
scroll. Quick scroll. Quick scroll. Quick scroll. Yeah. Yeah.
with Batman Offworld. So intrigued with this one. A routine night in Gotham for a young Batman proves to be anything but routine when the crime fighters he's confronted with are the sort of foes he's never faced before, ones from beyond the stars. The universe of possible alien threats leads Batman into making the decision to venture alone into the far reaches of the cosmos for the first time. Written by Jason Aaron's, I'm like Batman in space.
It made my list as well, mate. Like when I saw the title of it, I was a little bit intrigued, but I was like, oh, let's read the solicit to see whether it pulls me in. And I read the solicit and I went, oh, do you know what? That doesn't sound too bad. The idea of his first trip to space, and then I read that it was Jason Aaron doing it, and I went, oh, first time he's ever doing Batman. I'm quite in for this, and yeah, as I say, it kind of went from title to something that I was a bit like, oh, maybe, to very very much becoming convinced very very quickly that I wanted to be involved.
Yes, it's one of those of this is going to go one of either two ways. It's going to be really, really fucking good, or it's going to be terrible.
I'm
But
hoping
I'm
for
going
the
with
really good, yeah.
I'm going with who's doing it. It has got it's a higher probability of it being good than pish.
That's what it felt like to me. I'm with you. Like as I say, without the creative team, I probably would have leant the other way and said this has got a high chance of being pish. But with that creative team,
Mm.
I think this could be a really interesting story, really interesting way of looking at it. You know, we often talk about a lot of the Bat stuff that's released each month is more Black Label, Elseworld stuff. Um, this feels like it's going to venture in that world, but not necessarily be an Elseworlds or a Black Label. So yeah, I'm down for this. I think this is quite exciting, if I'm honest.
Yes. So what do you have from
So
DC?
I'm going to kind of lump a few together here, but purely because they are naturally lumped together, and it is the issues around Beast World. So they're all linked off of Titans, and the
Yeah.
one that I particularly picked out is Beast World Titans Beast World number 1. Uh, I haven't started reading the Titans series yet because I do want to read the Nightwing run by Tom Taylor before I jump into the Titans. But it is it's a franchise that I have a bit of history with that I kind of like, a creator that I'm really starting to like now, and I'm actually starting to read their stuff. And I looked at this, and I like Beast Boy, but this looks like as a crossover, or as an event, should I say, that it's going to be playing with a lot of toys that I quite like.
Mm.
And again, it's coming out of the Titan series, but it's all of the individual facets of it seem like they are going to, I don't know, delve in certain different areas. So it doesn't feel like an event with a load of ancillary crossovers. They all feel like with different creative teams, like I'm going to get something quite juicy out of it. And especially as the idea of this Titans run is that they're the new Justice League, for want of a better term, or Justice League isn't back. I really feel like this is going to be a best foot forwards to try and establish them with a big event.
Mm.
So, and yeah, creative team looks amazing. So give me all of the Beast World tie-ins into my belly, please.
It's the thing with Titans. I I do need to start them somewhere. Because I've never really jumped in on Titans. The only Titan stuff I've ever seen is Teen Titans Go, the kids cartoon.
Yeah,
Um, it's never been a franchise or a set that's made me go, "Oh, I need to read this." So it is one of those I should
Well,
look at it. It's just I don't know if this is where it is a jump in or whether I should jump in like back a bit to get a bit of an idea of who people are before going into an event.
well, where and again, it was latterly. It wasn't actually at the release stage, but where I kind of started my Titans journey was with the Marv Wolfman Titans, which for a long period of time was almost going toe to toe with the X Men as the best selling comic out there and things like that. So I've gone
Mm,
back and read a lot of that run, and a lot of a lot of the kind of Teen Titans like outside of it stuff. So even stuff like some of the stuff in Teen Titans Go, but more so. I can't remember if it's Titans or the Teen Titans. The other cartoon that they had, they often borrow the stories from that era.
yeah,
But that's very very long time ago, and there is I would say a very kind of mixed quality period between then and much later on, where you get a few different creative teams come in and try and do some stuff, and not a lot of it sticks, and then there's loads of reboots and some of them are good, but then another reboot happens, and so I'm not really sure what the best starting point is, but I've always liked a lot of the characters they use. So like
yeah.
Gar as Beast Boy, I like Dick Grayson as Nightwing. I like Starfire from back in the day. I like how they used Wonder Girl. There's just always been a lot of characters that I've enjoyed. So I'm really keen to get back into Titans, and I think an event like this, hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully, it's good and it pulls me in. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. If anyone has any ideas of a good place for Chris to jump in, because I'd always say go back to the Wolfman and Perez years, but you know, it's a long time ago, and there's about 160 issues I think of it. But yeah, it's really good stuff. Although
Yeah.
to a degree, is showing its age quite a lot at this point.
So my next one is the start of a five-part bi-weekly event in Detective Comics. So it's 1076, 77, 78 this month. Obviously written by Ram V, who is
Ram
the
V,
head of
yeah.
Detective Comics at the minute. Um, Batman Outlaw is the subtitle for this little run. Batman, now under control of Asmir Demon, is to be publicly hanged and atone for his crimes. With both the city and the Dark Knight under the organism's spell, it's a lawless land, and with the Bat family out of the picture after the events of Gotham War, who will help him? I was intrigued by this with the wanted poster covers. I saw those, then read that, and I was like, oh, I think
It,
this, this is one of those. I've got a lot of shit to catch up with because I'm well out of the loop on this. But if this is a little 5 issue mini story, knowing Ram V's writing, I reckon it probably will be enough that you can just jump in, read these, and if it then catches me to carry on, just sort of start into back into detective again from there.
See, this didn't make my list, but kind of almost similarly to why it did make your list and some of the points you're making. I am definitely going to read the whole of the Ram V run. Definitely, I love Ram V, Detective Comics. So I kind of know I'm going to get this. I know the point is what we're looking forward to, but this was one of those ones where I kind of went. I'm looking forward to the whole run, not necessarily this story. And as you say, it is a new storyline. I don't know this for definite. I remember reading something when he come on there, and I don't want to piss on your chips, but I'm pretty sure he said his whole run is one long story. So I
Mm.
think kind of the selling, and I think there's stories within stories, but I think the idea is that it's I'm sure, although obviously not sure enough to put my everything I own on it, but I'm sure he was talking about his whole Detective Comics run as being like an opera, and like it kind of there's themes that run all the way through it. But I might be misremembering, but yeah, I would maybe start at the beginning of his run, maybe rather than this.
Yeah, it's just one of those of I looked at those covers and stuff, and I was like, oh. Oh,
Yeah, it does look cool.
and
Like,
yeah,
but yeah, I will definitely. I will probably be really excited about this when I've actually read some of the Ram V run already. Whereas at the moment, as I say, I'm just excited about nom nomming the whole Ram V
yeah.
run at a certain point.
What is your next one?
So mine's like probably going to be quite an odd choice. It's the Flash number 3. Again, somewhat similar to what you were just saying then. Of I I think I put the Flash in for when the new series was starting, but as I was going through the solicits, I looked at the covers of this, and then kind of read the solicit of it, which, if I was not so inept at scrolling down, so it says after the arrival of the Stillness last issue, the alien speedsters begin traveling around the world with Max Mercury watching their every move. Meanwhile, Wally encounters another former foe who's gotten a major upgrade, the Folding Man, while entering a new location beyond time called the Gallery. What hidden truths does this place hold for the Flash? And I, I just there was something about the solicit that made me go, "Oh, I really think I'm going to like this run." And it was
Mm,
almost putting it on there to kind of go, remind yourself to bloody read this, because it sounds like it's got that like, so having Max Mercury, who is a Flash-esque speedster that was very big in the Mark Waid run, which I really really loved. Having kind of him back in it, but then this talk about the Stillness, whatever the Stillness is, and bringing him back old villains, but it sounds like they're kind of getting that more sinister upgrade. This just smacked to me of something that I probably really want to get on the ground floor of early, because I think it might
yeah.
be right up my alley.
So my next one is Outsiders number 1. Uh, Never the end. The universe of secrets is about to come to light. Batman protects Gotham City from evil. Batman Inc. protects the rest of the known world. But what about the unknown world? That was enough for me to go,
Yep.
ooh.
Yep, absolutely, 100% with you. Like, I didn't even, I'd not even read anything along the way that this was on the radar to come out,
Mm,
and there've been over the years a lot of Batman and the Outsiders comics. Go back to something I said on the Titans. There's been some I've really liked, some that I haven't, some that I'm just. So the kind of franchise wasn't enough to pull me in, but I'm with you. That Solicit was really, really, really intriguing to me, and also the creative team. So it's Kelly and Lansing, who I've gone on about a few times now. Really loved what they did with Cap,
yeah.
and didn't love quite so much what they were doing with the Guardians, but. I don't know. I love the idea of what they're shilling here. So yeah, I was 100% in for this as well.
Yeah. It's one of those of you've intrigued me enough to definitely give issue 1 a go.
Yeah,
And it's an
and
issue 1 whether you grab me or not for the rest of that run. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be grabbing that first one.
well, as I say, quite often that's the battle, isn't it? It's the are you laying up something that is, if you have a bit of affinity with the franchise, a bit of an easier sell, but for you and I that don't, you've got one real chance. Well, I got to say one real chance. Got two real chances to grab me. One of them is your covers, and
Yep.
the second one is a solicit. And I think I'll generally always gravitate more to what the solicit says. And I went, yep, well done, boys. You've grabbed me. Now don't mess it up.
Anything else for yourself?
Yes, I've got a couple more, and again, really strange for me this month. I know we sort of teamed up on a couple of issue number ones there, but a lot of the stuff that was getting in my eye line wasn't issue ones with DC. So Wildcats number 12. Love to jump right into kind of, and I'm going to say the middle of the run. What I wasn't sure from this is potentially, is this the end of the run or just the end of a
Mm,
storyline? But so I like Wildcats as a property. I'm not entirely sure it's always been written brilliantly. Go right the way back to the early days of its existence, and It was in the Image Comics boom, and if you read some of them back, they're pretty poor. But over the years, they've got loads of really good, either already well-known writers, but in a lot of cases, not so well known, and they cut their teeth on it. So I've always had a bit of an affinity with the with the Wildcats universe. However, this is, and I'll do the solicits, and you'll know straight away why this made my list. So in a final climactic battle for control of Halo and all its secrets, it's the Wildcats versus the Seven Soldiers versus the Court of Owls. Winner takes all. And as we said last month, you put Court of Owls in a comic book anywhere, and I'm coming along for the ride. And I must have not noticed that in previous solicits for this. So yeah, a franchise I like, and the inclusion of the Court of Owls. Not only will I be picking up number 12, but I think this is going to lead me to fast track the whole of this series, because yeah, I want me some owl time.
Yes. Talking of owls, I did note down um, Gargoyles and City of Madness are on issue 2, and more Court of
Yeah,
Owl joys in those. My last one, though, is the end of a run that I have been reading. The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing 12, with the shocking and brutal conclusion has come. Joker versus Joker in a bloody no holds barred fight for supremacy.
do you reckon it's like
Um,
wrestling, no holds barred? Do you reckon they'll be
oh,
fighting all around the arena?
chairs, tables, ladders, everything. I've really enjoyed. I think I'm up to issue 7. I think of this run, or 7 or 8. Um, with this is a weird thing. I can't remember if I brought it up on here at any point at all, because I don't remember if I've
I,
mentioned it on
do you know
things.
what?
I
I
might have
can't
said the
remember.
first one or not,
Yeah,
but
I can't remember you saying about it, but we talk a lot of comics, so it might have just skipped my memory. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't think you've spent a lot of time on it, if anything. Like,
It's very weird thing. So there's 2 Jokers. Um, both of them are acting as they're the real Joker, but they also know that there's something not right. And they're basically trying to take each other out to then be just the one Joker. Um, it it hits everything that I want to see in this sort of thing, because they are really fucking nasty versions of the Joker, both of them, both proper evil, shoot their own guys in the face if they don't do what they're meant to do levels of supervillain. So yeah, I'm intrigued with where this goes, and I hope it sticks to landing. But
if
it's
only
just
they
that
could
thing
have.
of knowing.
Sorry.
As I said, it's just the thing of knowing that there is a definitive ending coming, and when that will be is why I picked it up and shoved it in here now.
If only they could have done that before the 3 Jokers, then we wouldn't have had to put up with that unholy mess. Yeah, and not one that jumped out to me, but as much as I'm picking things that are later in runs at the moment, I did see that it was like the final issue, and I kind of, there wasn't anything that massively grabbed me. But now that I know that you've read it, obviously when you get to the end, if you say really good, like across the whole piece, then I think it's something that I'll probably pick up uh, as the whole job lot.
Yeah, at some point on your mammoth list.
Yeah, yeah, and like just to dip back to reading corner, it doesn't help your mammoth list, does it? When you spend your week
Have work.
reading something that you've already read and not actually ticking anything off of the list.
Damn
Yeah,
work.
just and really this week, damn work. Just the one last one for me with DC, and it was talking about being in the midst of runs. Batman Superman World's Finest number 21, and I've read. I can't remember if it's the first. It's the first 2 trades, but they're kind of wonky length trades, so they're not like your kind of 6-issue ones. But
Yeah.
I think I've read about the first 9 issues of it, and it's very good. Like Mark Waid's writing on it's very good. Dan Moore's art on it is beautiful. But the thing that jumped out to me about issue 21 is, and I think we might have briefly touched on this either on the show or possibly off show. We were talking about it, but it's and this is even in the midst of a story, but it jumped at me, and I do want to get caught up and read the whole story. But it's Superman and Batman having followed Boy Thunder to Kingdom Come, and that's what sold me. So I'd said to you about the Mark Waid DC series, which was a kind of, let's say, Elseworlds at the time, about Kingdom Come. It's the future of superheroes. It's fantastic, and I didn't realize that someone was playing in that universe again. And it's not necessarily the only time they've done it, but they don't do a lot. JSA did some stuff with Kingdom Come, but yeah, as soon as I read that, I kind of, there's loads more to the solicit. I stopped reading right there. I went bang, remind myself, world's finest. This storyline, need to get on it, because yeah, it's a great standalone story, Kingdom Come, and often they're best left alone. But I think the fact that it's Mark Waid who wrote it,
Yeah,
playing with it again, I've got a bit of confidence that he'll probably do something really cool.
do it properly. Yeah.
So yeah, and also like just in general, like 2 thumbs up for what I've read of Superman, Batman, World's Finest so far. It's really good comic book.
So we shall go into Marvel. Um,
Got to go in reverse now. Got to scroll up.
so while you're doing that, the one that has jumped right out at me, and it is actually near the bottom of my list because in the order that the solicits were printed, but it's the first one I want to talk about. The first of 4 new issues of the century.
Very quickly, I put it in my list, but I put it right down the bottom because I thought Chris is going to get talk about this one before I get to it. But yeah,
So, who will be the new century? The century is dead, but ordinary people all over the world are suddenly manifesting his powers and experience snippets of Bob Reynolds' memories. Will one of them survive long enough to emerge as the new century, or will their newfound power destroy them? I mean,
yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a really good solicit because, as you say, you like the Sentry, I like the Sentry, so there was a bit of an attraction straight away to a new Sentry series. But yeah, I thought that was a really intriguing plot point. Bearing in
yeah,
mind, we've seen some great Bob Reynolds straight up sort of Sentry stories before. Yeah, I like the idea because so much of it's about kind of the fractured mind and
the
like
fight with himself.
and early doors, like, is this stuff actually happening? Is it real? Like, da, da, da,
Yeah,
da. And I think the idea of taking that concept and throwing that out further, yeah, I'm really intrigued by this. I don't know I don't know the writer at all, Jason Liu. I've no idea, and I didn't get a chance to have a look to see what else they'd written. But um, that might even be even more of a selling point of going, oh, a fresh, new to me and presumably new to you creative team as
yeah.
well. But yeah, it was at the bottom of my list, but not because it was the bottom of my list. It was the, well, unless I say that first, like Chris is having that one, isn't he? So
But yeah, that was one of those of like, straight away. Because yeah, thanks to Sean for going. You need to read Century and sort of making me read that first one.
thank you, Sean.
Just fucking love the Century, and I'm hoping that there is that throwback idea of the art style that we've seen in a lot of the other Century work. That we do get the different style panels of stuff from different eras.
Or at least if they're not doing that, something in the art. You know, bearing in
Yeah,
mind it's going to be like, I presume you're at least going to follow a few different people as this happens. You know, it might be quite cool to maybe where they're from or where they're based, different art styles, or if they're at what age they are. I don't know,
yeah,
but I think because there's been a high bar for our enjoyment of Century stories before, you hope that whatever creative team comes on it is going to try and hit that high bar, don't you? It's not just like,
yeah.
oh yeah, we'll phone this one in. But we shall see. But yeah, it definitely made my list as well.
It's just the thing with Century because he's so rarely used. It seems to be not so much an event sort of thing, but he is a character they use so sparingly that
Yeah.
when you do it, it deserves that extra level of love and care in that creation.
Well, and like go back to a few of them back then. I know you haven't read it yet, but they did it with the Marvel boy Grant Morrison. Because of this stuff was originally coming out by Marvel Knights, they were afforded a bit more of a chance to be more detached from the Marvel, or as detached as they want to be from the Marvel universe. Because effectively, I think they knew they could write them out of continuity if they wanted to. Because they just go, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
everything that happened in the Marvel Knights universe didn't happen, or whatever. But because of that, I think you had these creative teams telling these really expansively and intelligent stories. Not always. Never read the first Punisher run of that Marvel Knights. It's awful. But generally, people, I think, were hitting such a high bar. And then, of course, when these characters started to get folded in, to a large part, people kept trying to aim for that high bar. It's many years later, though, and I hope people are still aiming for that. But yeah, we shall see. But yeah, I'm really excited by it, and mainly because I feel like we haven't had a century specific solo story of any note for a while.
Yes. So what's your first pick?
It's like, how we go into the future with these. It felt a little bit like I was going into the past because last month I picked the Superior Spider-Man Returns, part of the written by Dan Slott, part of kind of celebratory for the anniversary of the character. Well, this month we've got Superior Spider-Man #1, so of course it is going on my list as well because it's Dan Slott and Mark Bagley again. Spider-Man faces a new villain from his superior past, and in this bit kind of threw me as she fries New York with all the power of a living star. So it's a she, but I probably should be able to equate it, and I think it's probably Electro, which is the female Electro, but with a C.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said it last time. I'm not going to go into it too much. Loved Superior Spider-Man. Loved Dan Slott's writing on pretty much everything he's ever touched with Spider-Man. So whenever I see a Dan Slott written Spidey, or very specifically a Dan Slott written Superior Spider-Man, I'm there, jumping all over it.
Yeah, this was in my list as well.
Yeah.
Because as I've said a few times on here, I really do need to do some Spider-Man, and
It's
yeah,
one
as you
it's
ranked,
one hell of a run, like it
yeah.
really is.
So my next one, as soon as you saw this, you must have gone. He's definitely picking this one. Deadpool, Seven
Yep.
Slaughters.
Yep, I did. And it was the second one down in the solicits I was going through, and I just went, well, he might just stop there. He might keel over with a sword boner at this point, and we may never get him back.
7 kills, 7 days.
Yeah.
Welcome to a week in the life of Wade Wilson, the mercenary who loves to kill. Facing off against rival killers in a top secret association assassinations, Deadpool has a lot of work to do in this oversized one hit. It's a one piece go of, by the sounds of it, Deadpool killing people.
It,
Take my money.
yeah, I mean, like that was the thing that really put me off the one shot. Because I'm not a massive one shot fan unless like it's something that I have a particular resonance with. But having they've got uh, quite a few writers and artists attached to it, don't they? And Gail Simone being one of the writers, and I really liked her time with Deadpool, and Cullen Bunn being one of the writers, very much intrigued me. I'm no massive critique to a lot of the other writers. They're just people that I don't really have a lot of love for. One of the things that really put me off, though, is Rob Liefeld's writing part of it as well. And don't get me wrong, young me loved a bit of Rob Liefeld, and Deadpool wouldn't exist without him. But I go, oh my god, that's gonna be rough. But each to their own on that. I'm sure you will find it fun. I think I would find it painful in parts, but probably very good in other parts.
Yeah, the thing is with something like that, because obviously there's going to what I would imagine is the fact that there's the 7 murders for the 7 days.
Yeah,
Each of the
yeah.
writers will do one of the one of the killing days, and
And then
it
maybe one of them bookend it a little bit, maybe like
yeah
with the beginning and the end of the story.
yeah. So if you have one bad day, hopefully you don't go manic and kill the world, but we all
Killing
know
seven
what can
people,
happen.
fine.
Yeah.
7 people's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. As I say, I saw it as on there. Deadpool's a character who I've said to you before, and we've talked about him on here before. There are some runs of the ongoing series of Deadpool that I've really liked, and I have really, really liked. But I find my interest in him fluctuates very, very greatly dependent on the creative team. And as a couple of writers on here I really like, but in general, I go, a lot of people I either don't know, don't massively care about, and one that I go, oh, I'd rather never read a story written by you ever again in my life, ever. Bearing in mind, I
Mm.
have recently read something by, and not that he wrote it recently, but I recently read some of Rob Liefeld's entries into the New 52, and oh, like a good 20 years has passed since he was predominantly writing a lot of stuff that I would have read. And let's just say it didn't feel like he learned any new writing tricks in those last 20 years. If anything, it felt like he got worse.
But as said, with Deadpool, I will jump in usually on if there's like a limited story arc or something like that. I'll jump in and get my Deadpool fill, and then step away again for a bit, because in the wrong hands with Deadpool, it is you've done that joke. You're doing the same joke. Well done. You've hammered that joke home. Some people do go in at that base level where others can give it a lot more depth on there. But as long as there's murder, winning.
Depends how funny the writer is as well, doesn't it? And when I say how
Yeah,
funny the writer is, how funny the writer is for you, because it is quite hard, isn't it, to just be consistently funny over a period of comic books, and especially as I think there's a expectation driven a lot by the movies of what Deadpool will do.
yeah,
And because that expectation of what Deadpool will do has been set for a way over a decade now, it must be really hard to come on there and make the whole routine feel fresh. So
yeah,
like whenever I see a cover and he's saying chimichanga, I know I'm not buying it, because I've kind of, that reference has been overly used for me at this
yeah.
point. But yeah, bless anyone who wants to have a crack at it. And as I say, there's some amazing runs out there, and I think there will continue to be. But I think they'll be more sporadic for me, and I don't think I'll get it out of a one shot.
Yes. So what's yours next?
Well, speaking of horrendous things that should have stayed in the past, like Rob Liefeld, next up for me, and I almost felt a bit dirty picking this, but it's Daredevil Black Armor. So this is, and it is the creative team from the time, but this is returning to a period in Daredevil's history where he was put into black armor. But it was that kind of era of comic books where everyone was being put into armor. For our reference points for that, please see our Nightfall videos. It's not a run that I loved, but there is a real intrigue in me about them coming back many, many years later and trying to do another story. And it is set in that era, so they are basically kind of going, go back and play with that era again. I'm gonna get it, but I'm almost 50-50 on, they could do something brilliant to make that era that I really didn't like good, or they just do stuff like they did before and I'm going to hate this. But yeah, I couldn't help but have it pop into my list. There are many, many moments in the amount of published history there are for a lot of these superheroes. There's awful moments for all of them. And
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of morbid curiosity about creators trying to do something with those bad times. So yeah, let's see. And if it does, let's hope it starts a trend of going back to the worst of the 90s and trying to make them more palatable now. But yeah, could be awful.
Yes, it could. We will find out. My next one is Marvel Superhero Secret Wars Battle World. Um, Nearly 40 years, the mysteries of the Secret Wars deepen. Get ready for all new cataclysmic battles when Spider Man first gets his alien costume and the mysterious being called the Beyond assembles superheroes and villains from Earth to do a battle on a patchwork planet. This seems to be the big event for the turn of the year. Um, Intrigued with this one because obviously I know you've spoke about Secret Wars before,
Yeah.
the original Secret Wars and it being good. Um, Bringing that into a modern 40 years down the line, see what they do with it.
It's weird because you're absolutely spot on. I love Secret Wars because it was one of the things that really did shape me getting into comics. I didn't pick this though. I looked at it and I went, an untold tale in the middle of that. Now, bearing in mind, I just said I want to read the series about an untold tale in the middle of a run that was awful. I think I get more worried about people playing in the cracks of stuff I did like.
Yes.
Because I think you can do potentially more damage. Tom DeFalco, the writer, I quite like him, but I like his writing for when it was. So a lot of when I was early doors reading Marvel comics, like he wrote a lot of the stuff. Like he does loads of stuff on Thor. You come out of the Walt Simonson amazing mythology Thor, and you kind of go into this more camp, funny Thor stuff. So I don't mind him as a writer. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of went, what can you really do? There's actually a story that that had Deadpool in it, and I want to say it's Secret Wars 2 TOO, but that
Hmm.
actually might be something else. And then they do a bit where he goes on to Battle World and he's like in the background of loads of scenes kind of going like that, and I must admit I did quite enjoy it, but that one felt like again more out of continuity for the funsies, whereas
Yeah.
I probably will read this though, as much as it didn't make my list because there is that intrigue. But yeah, I worry about this because I feel like they might be. I don't know how much it can add, and I feel like it might detract from something that
Yeah.
I love. So yeah, it was a no for me.
So, what's your next one?
Thanos number one.
I too have
Uh,
this.
yeah, I didn't realise that there was another Thanos series happening, and quite oft you do get him because they need to make some cash money as well, don't they? So you can see why they go back to that well every now and again. Um, but Christopher Cantwell's writing it. I am reading the Iron Man run by Christopher Cantwell. I bloody love the Iron Man run by Christopher Cantwell and have sworn that I will now read everything that he writes from this point forwards. And it's Thanos versus the Illuminati. So the Mad Titan descends upon Earth to retrieve something he has lost, and the Illuminati must band together to stop him because they're the ones who hid it from him. Now, I will say, I'm pretty sure they've done this storyline before. However, I'm still really quite excited about it. And again, I really like the creative team. So yeah, I'm all in for this.
Yeah, as I said, I thought you would be in on this one because secret societies. I know what you like.
I do. I
Um,
do. I love a secret society or a cult. I'm in.
yeah, and Thanos coming back to destroy shit. Get in. I'm all for it. So my next one is another one shot, but it's for the 50th anniversary of Howard the Duck. Um, Chip
I don't do the
Zdarsky,
one shots very often, but yeah, I'm with you
yeah,
on this one shot. Yeah.
and John Quonis coming back, as I said, for a 50th anniversary of Howard the Duck. Um, doesn't really go into too much details. It said meet Howard, hard-boiled PI with problems by the duckload, and a cosmic
Love
opportunity
a good
friend.
duck pun. Love a duck pun.
So the thing is, everything I've read of Howard the Duck, I've enjoyed. Um,
and especially the Chip Zdarsky runs, like
Yeah.
that's what really sold me on this. Of going a writer I've really come to like a lot, and part of what made me like him a lot was his Howard the Duck run. So yes, please, um, yeah, really interested to see them play with these toys again.
Yes. What is your next one?
My next one, and I'm just going to check. 'Cause I think my next one might be my last one. Yeah, I'm not lying. My next one is my last one. It is Thunderbolts #1. Um, I have I'll say a long torrid. That sounds worse. I have a long history with the Thunderbolts. I loved the first ever issue of Thunderbolts, and I stayed with them for a long time. And they went through a lot of, in theory, changes. So, like in latter years, it moved away from the villains pretending to be heroes to heroes or villains really actually trying to be heroes. Then when we go through the spoilers for you, because I know you haven't read a lot of this yet, but when you go through a lot of that new Avengers time, they become the Thunderbolts into the Dark Avengers, and they are more clearly villains, but still villains that are government sponsored. So there's a lot of stuff out there, but this felt to me like a very interesting new jumping on point, and it's Colin Kelly and Jackson landing again. And I said about I was really enjoying their Cap run. So
Yeah.
this picks it up, and it's got Bucky Barnes in it. A revolution is coming. Bucky Barnes, the revolution, just inherited a mountain of covert intel, and he has one objective: justice. So before I go into any other bits of it, that is
Where
leading on
the
from the
cat
stuff they were
run.
doing in Cap.
Yeah.
So I had hoped that their story wasn't going to be done at the end of Cap, and I understand they're transitioning Cap into J. Michael Straczynski writing it, but I was hoping we would see more of some of the stuff that they were layering in, and it feels like I'm going to get it here now. I don't think it's not linked to the fact that there'll be a Thunderbolts movie as well.
Yeah.
So there's probably a bit of get something in the eye lines, but yes, I'm down for this. It says Bucky assembles a team of Black Ops heavy hitters to pursue high-profile targets like the Red Skull, Kingpin, and even Doctor Doom. And it doesn't go into who those people are. However, I guess they will probably be close to what the cast of the movie is. But I like this creative team. I like the idea of the Thunderbolts, and I like the idea of some of those concepts that were introduced in Cap carrying on. So
Yes.
give it to me, please.
So I have a couple more in Marvel.
I think I know what one of them will be.
The first one is Punisher.
That's the one I thought I knew it would be.
Return of Frank Castle, or the start of something else. Frank has disappeared, but evil will always be punished. This is written by David Purpose. I love that last Punisher run. That I'm not even sure if that's finished on Marvel yet.
Issue
I know
issue 12 issue 12 went up this week. And when I said in my comfort zone of reading something, I really wanted to finish that off and read it all this week, but because I didn't think I was in the right mindset for something new, I thought I might
Yeah.
give it the time of day. But yeah, next week I'll be doing the rest of that Punisher run.
That'll be me for the weekend then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously I've loved this Punisher and Ares run,
Yeah.
and it's got me back in that thing of wanting to read more Punisher. So yeah, I'll definitely give the first one of this new run a go, and hopefully it carries on the same standard of level of quality that the last one does. Obviously, I know it's a completely different team doing it, but as I said, hopefully they come in with whatever their story and what they want to do with it, but it's of that same level of quality.
See, I was a little bit wavy on this because I didn't like the idea of a new Punisher. I mean, it happens quite often, doesn't it? You get
Yeah.
new people under the guise of that, and I think partially because we'll see when we finish this Punisher run what happens at the end of this Punisher run, and whether there's a definitive reason why the Frank Castle isn't. But over the years, lots of rebirths of characters. I just don't think I want another Punisher after that last run. Having said all
Yeah.
that, in the Solicits, one of the things it describes itself as is John Wick meets the Fugitive, and I went, that I like the sounds of that though, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably, as horrible as this sounds, I'll probably use you as the guinea pig on this because, again, I think this is one that is going to be awful or really good. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground here.
Yeah.
And there's just a little bit too much of me that's leaning towards awful at the moment. But yeah, we
So
shall
yeah,
see.
we'll let you know when we get there.
Yeah.
Last two. What if Dark Tomb of Dracula? What would happen if Dracula had transformed Blade into a normal vampire instead of a
Do you know
vampire
what?
slayer?
I feel foolish here because I did see What If Dark Tomb of Dracula, and I looked at the creative team, Marv Wolfman writing it, wrote Tomb of Dracula, really like Marv Wolfman. I didn't notice the fact that it was a Blade story. Otherwise, I would have 100% put this on the top of my list of stuff you will pick.
And last one is Alien #1. This is because of reading the Predator runs that Marvel have done being so good. I want to see what they do with the xenomorphs.
So I didn't put Alien #1 on, but only because there's a lot of Alien stuff already by Marvel, and I've only read the first trade of the first one that they published. So I feel like I will sequentially go through all of them. And they probably don't even follow sequentially, but I feel like I will. And this felt a long way away on my reading list. But so, yeah, it was nothing against like the product because I do think I'll really enjoy it. I just think that in reality, if I get to this by November 2025, I think it will be somewhat of a modern miracle.
But yeah, I didn't do too much more into the reading of that. I was just like, Aliens, I like what they do with Predator. I will definitely give the first one a
Yeah,
go.
it didn't make my list by the way, but like having said that, like we've got further kind of issues of Wolverine,
Versus
Predator. I think I
Predator.
said Punisher then, and I got a big beaming smile on my face as I scrolled through that. So it did at the very least that for me, but it didn't feel special enough to kind of make the show. But yeah, it was in the back of my head.
So I don't have anything for Titan or for Boom, but
I
I'm
have a
gonna imagine you
boom.
have something for Boom because there was one thing I saw in there that stank of you.
Well, now you'd think that my memory would hold up because it wasn't even before we started recording. So I had a quick scan over, but in the small amount of time we've been recording, it seems like everything seeped out of my head. So scrolly down the list. Right, boom. Let's get boom up on my screen. It would help if I could spell as well, wouldn't it? Boom on the screen. The space between #1 was made my list for
That
boom.
wasn't the one I was thinking.
Well, let's just say that I think I've got more than one for boom, but that's the first one on my list. Let's hope I've got more than one now. But don't know the creative team: Karina, Becco, and Danny Luckett on art. So a multi-generation spanning interstellar sci-fi tale for fans of We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Now I haven't read We Only Find Them When They're Dead, but it's on my list too. But it says aboard the interstellar ark known as the Dodona, the populations of workers live in strictly separated social castes during the journey that will take multiple generations to complete. But everything changes when a pilot from the upper tier named Revler falls to the lower tiers and meets Les, and I presume it's pronounced Les, and I like the idea that it's Les because it's such a British name.
Les.
And yeah, Les, and they must risk everything for not just themselves but all aboard the Dodona. And it says each issue in the limited series features a new pair of protagonists. Now, I quite like a sci-fi story; they do quite interest me, and I love any story that is based in, even if it's not on a space station, but any structure where there is a social caste system. And it's just a story trope that I love, that kind of people, the way that people are treated and those interactions between them. So yeah, I saw this and I went, yes, please. And boom is fast becoming the place where if it's a creative team I haven't heard of, I'm still very much going to jump on it because there's a really good pedigree in recent times for what they're producing. Now, next one, and I'm not sure whether this is. I'm quite intrigued to what one you think it is that I've picked because I'm wondering whether I've missed something. But the next one for me was, I'm going to go with this as my pronunciation: Zawa and the Belly of the Beast, number one.
That wasn't the one.
So again, creative team, and this is writer and artist Michael Dialinus. Don't know, never heard of, but this says Twig meets Marcelina Screen Queen from the co-creator of Wind. Now, Wind is something that's on my list to get to, so I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what. And I think Michael's the artist on that. But it says, trapped inside her mountain by pollution spewing factories, the guardian spirit Zawa only has industrial waste to eat, leading her to a bitter existence of paranoia and destruction. But when two siblings from a nearby village help her escape, they'll quickly learn that the way to claiming Zawa's heart is for a well-nourished stomach. I really liked the art style, specifically on the covers, and again, I kind of quite like quirky stories like this, and you know, it smacked to me of, could almost sound like the sort of thing like a Studio Ghibli movie would be. So yeah, I was very, very interested in this, and yeah, maybe the selling point is a creative team that I don't know. Is a bit of a selling point, and that was the two I had for Boom. So what have I missed?
Tom King and Animal Pound.
What? Wait one caller.
I was like, it's got a dog on the cover and it's written by Tom King.
Yeah, so I did miss that. I did go past it. I wonder whether, because it's the ash can, isn't it? And I know they did this for the Ram V one that I've forgotten the name of now. The food
Rare
one.
Flavours.
Yeah, Rare Flavors. And I wonder whether I kind of scroll past going, I think next month will be the non-ash can one, and I'll grab it there. But still, yeah, I feel like I should hand my Tom King fan club membership back.
But
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
not just.
I
It's
should have.
not just.
I should have seen this.
It's not just about it's Tom King. But there's a dog on the cover.
Well, and the kind of screed of it is Tom King and Peter Gross present an Animal Farm for the 21st Century, one of my favourite books of all time. And you're right, it has a dog on the cover. Yeah. Apologies to everyone in my family. I've let them down. I've let Her Majesty the Queen. Depending on when you're watching this. But I've let everything. I've let the whole universe down. But yes, I think I scanned past it because I saw the word ash can, and I tend to go past them. But yes, please, and I'm sure I will be coming back to it next month when there is the non-ash can version as well. But yeah, good shout. Terrible miss by me.
And did you have anything for Titan?
Nope.
No, cool.
So I don't know why I said nope so voracious. Nope.
So we will go to Image, where I have some.
Well, hey, I also have some Image. Yes.
So the first one on my list, and this is not in order of importance, it's just the order they were printed because my biggest one for Image is later on. Blood Condemnment. Living in an isolated life in a shadowy valley surrounded by mountains and thick forest, a father and son are terrorized by the dangerous supernatural presence. Only the father's dark secret can save them, or damn them, for all eternity. The cover art look very much like Last of Us. It has that sort of what are we playing with? 'Cause it doesn't really go into too much detail of what the
Some old school horror movie poster vibes to that cover as well,
Yeah.
isn't there? Like, I wish I could put my finger on it, but at Fright Night, it reminds me of the poster for Fright Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Didn't make my list, but also I did think I'll probably end up getting it.
yeah.
Just didn't quite grab me to the ooh stage, but yeah, I can see why. And it wasn't something that I rejected like without some thought.
So, what is yours?
Um, my first one, and I think we're probably going to both build up to. I think probably our top one is going to be the same if we were going to pick a top one from this. But the first one was the Holy Roller. To a large part, this is because it's written by Rick Remender, who I very much like. Rick Remender, I very much like Rick Remender's writing. It's also written by Joe Truman from Fallout Boy. Not such a selling point for me, I'll be honest. But and also Andy Samberg, the comedian. I'm predominantly interested in Rick Remender, but I do sometimes like it when you get these mashup of writers and writers
Mm.
that have come in from other mediums to see what they can do. But I was wavering around it, and then I actually kind of read the solicitor, and so it says to care for his ailing father, Pro Bowler Levi Cohen is forced to quit his dream job and return to his hometown, which he soon discovers has been overrun by neo-Nazis. With only his bowling ball collection to defend himself, Levi becomes the Holy Roller, a trick bowling, ball wielding Jewish superhero battling to liberate his home and bowl a perfect game against crime. I thought it sounded quirky and weird enough to go. Like I said, this in a couple of things. I think this could be brilliant. It could also be awful, but I'm gonna with this one. I'm gonna lean towards having a writer like Rick Remender on. That might bring it into the this is really good
Yeah,
area. So yeah, intrigued me enough to make me want to have a crack at it. And the cover does have him with a bowling ball. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this.
yeah, I did see that one. I was umming and ahhing about it, but the Fallout Boy connection was just like, ooh, for me. But it said, I mean, as you say, with that one, I think it's going to be one of those. If it's going to be a hit or miss, I think there's going to be much of a middle ground on that one.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it might be like we said earlier, like I said to you about the Punisher one. I think that might be one of the ones where I end up buying it and reading it and then saying to you, "Look, dude, I know you're a
get
bit
on it.
ropey on this, but get on it. It is weirdly very, very good." And you sort of say about like the kind of the musician thing. It's a little bit cheaty, but the last time I read something with a musician coming to it was Gerard Way and Umbrella Academy, and I bloody loved that, and I didn't think I would. So I'm kind of hoping that it follows that tack.
Mm. Bad band, good writer.
Yeah, that's the hope.
My next one is Crave. Again, another new series that's coming out. A mysterious app that promises to make your desires come true spreads among the students of an elite university who think it's a hookup app. Top student engages in a game of seduction with an unattainable Alexandria, but as requests to the app escalate and wreak havoc on campus, Dave and his friends only have one chance to stop and find out what is truly behind the crave. I'm like, ooh, that's got a little bit of a Black Mirror-y sort of
There was
vibe
a
to it.
there was a TV show, and I think it was BBC produced, and I'll check it in a second. I think it was called Red Rose, and I did really
Yes.
like it, but it sounded, and again, I'm going to say this didn't make my list because this sounded very similar to that. And as much as I like Red Rose, I did kind of go, is this too similar? And I guess you don't know
Mm.
till you've read it, but I think because I've experienced something like that recently, it just kind of dipped it out of the list a little bit for me. But yeah, I'll be reliant on you. You can bloody read this one and tell me whether it's good or not. But yeah, just didn't quite make it for me.
Yes. What do you have next?
So next up for me was Petrol Head, number one. Written by Rob Williams. Says jump straight into the non-human race with 42 robo-gorgeous launch issue story pages in a climate crisis ravaged future metropolis. An old grumpy obsolete smoke belching cigar chomping hot rod racing robot is one 12-year-old girl's only hope. Together can they outrace the chasing robocops with an intervention that might just save humanity. Like Rob Williams stuff, I like the concepts for this. I love a bit of like robots. I love a bit of post-apocalyptic kind of futures. I love linking up with kids. Smacks of the sort of thing that Pixar would do, and again, Studio Ghibli all rolled into one. Uh, very excited by this one. I think this could be one that I fall in love with and fall in love with very quickly.
Yes. My next one is not so much sort of jumping point, but I'm intrigued when I finally get that far in. Philadelphia 31
Yeah, it's on my list. Yeah,
bringing Spawn into Philadelphia.
and we're both very early on in Philadelphia, aren't we? We both liked
Yeah.
it. And I didn't envisage that at a certain point Spawn would be in there. Not because it's like absolutely ridiculous to what the story is, because why not effective what it is? But I still
Yeah.
never thought it would happen. And I'm exactly the same as you with series that we're often reading. I tend to, when we go through solicits, often skip by them because I just go, oh no, I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw Spawn and I kind of double took and went back and read the solicit explicitly, and I went, nope, it's going on the list. Even though it's a series I know I'm reading, that is definitely going on.
Was there anything else for you? Because I have one left, my big one.
I have one. I have two left. So because Philadelphia was on there, but I'll do the what I think is the big one, the one that we're going to be sharing. I think. I wanted to give a bit of a highlight to this one from Image because I feel like it's a series that won't and doesn't get talked about enough, and certainly I know it's not something we've ever discussed on the show or anything like that. But I wanted to highlight a small indie title called Transformers, and Transformers #2 is coming out in November. So I
That
wanted to
sounds like an
highlight it
interesting
because
startup.
I felt like it might be not given maybe the backing that it deserves. So I wanted to make sure that it's actually out there. But no, all joking aside, it did make my list because I said in last month's how excited I am for this Transformers run. We don't tend to go into like issue 2s and things like that, but that's really how excited I am. And I've not read any spoilers necessarily for Transformers #1, but I have on Twitter seen comic creators who have had issue #1 shared with them by Daniel Warren Johnson, and they are saying this is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I'm in. I'm in 2-footed, 3-footed, no matter how many feet it takes. I'm in for this. So yeah, Transformers #2, and I feel like until I started to read it, and if it was a bit of disappointment, but I feel like Transformers will become a regular feature for me on Image Comics solicitations going forward.
Yes. So, did you want to do your other one before I jump into the big one, or do you want to see if
No,
it's
so
the same?
that was my other one outside of the big one, and I know it's going to be the same. There's no way that we're not picked the same one for our big one from Image. And if you haven't picked the right one, I'm going to be really annoyed at you.
Is it Dark Ride #9, the brand new story arc of continuing on that amazing joy that was the first Dark Ride?
No,
Oh, something's wrong with you, because that's
well,
what
I've not
mine
read
is.
it. I've not read it, have I? So it would be hard for me to be excessively excited about Dark Ride #9, but I am now annoyed at you that that you've missed that and an amazing one here from Image. But you go on, you talk about Dark Ride because I am really. I've said to you like, and I have actually picked up the first trade now because I
Yes,
do. Like you said how good it was, so yeah, I have grabbed that now. It's in the house, just hasn't been read
yes. So
yet.
my trade 2, I believe, is meant to be coming in the next few weeks,
Nice.
just in time for for issue 9 to come in the shop. So I will be getting them as they come out. Uh, Coming back with who is Halloween? What is the real story behind the princess of the Devil Land? And given the choices in who will she claim the throne? I don't know where we're up to at this point. I've got a whole trade to read before we get here,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
in.
That's the thing. Sometimes it's really weird, isn't it, when you are like at least a trade behind and you read the solicits and you kind of go, "Well, you're writing stuff down on here like I should know what you're talking about, and I don't, but it doesn't make me want it any less.
So yeah, as I said, as soon as I saw that, because from what I'd heard originally, it was going to be just up to the 8 issues that were the two trades, and that was it. But clearly, sales were good enough that they've let them carry on, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, and that's always nice, isn't it? When certainly for these creator owned stuff, and I know quite often they're given probably a lot more sales leeway than they would, for example, at Marvel. But yeah, it is nice to see them find their audience and find enough of an audience to allow the stories to perpetuate. Because I mean, if you're loving them, the hope is that other people are, and you know, it certainly seems to be with this that they are, and I am looking forward to reading the first trade and seeing if it grabs me anywhere near as much as it grabbed you.
Yes. So, what is the one I've missed?
I'll do the solicit and then I'll judge you harshly. So, as snow falls over Milwaukee in 1972, a blood-stained Santa Claus commits unimaginable atrocities against young men. 50 years later, a troubled young writer interviews this so called deviant killer who still maintains his innocence from behind bars, and as Christmas approaches once again, the past returns wielding a sharpened axe. Chris, it's about killing, it's got Santa in it, and even worse, and it's the deviant number one of nine, it's written by James Tinian the Fourth. So one of our favourite
I think
writers, and
I
it's got
think
a
I
Santa
might have
Claus killer.
accidentally overly scrolled over this the same way that you did with your Tom King one.
I'd like to think that you did. Yeah, so because when you said there's one, like everything in my head went, it's going to be this because again the creative team and like we love what we've read of him so far, don't we? Like I don't
Yes.
think he's had a miss for us at all yet, and this feels like it's going to be the most you one so far for me. So yeah, like when it wasn't that one, and you said that, I'll be honest, for a period of time there, I thought you were bullshitting. It was a dark ride. No offense to dark ride, but I thought it was all a big ruse. But yeah, I can only imagine you skipped past this by accident,
I
and it's
don't
going to be
remember
an
saying.
and it's a 9 issue series, so like finite. Although having said that, Nice House on the Lake was 12 issues, wasn't it? Until we got to the end of the Nice House on the Lake and found out that it wasn't just 12 issues. So
Yeah.
maybe this is 9 issues that might have further sort of story afterwards. But yeah, love to look at
So
the
you
the covers.
haven't
The
told
covers
the
awesome.
you haven't told the audience what it is. You've just
I did
given the
have.
solicit. You didn't
No,
give
I
the
said that.
title.
I said I did give the title. I said it's a deviant one, number
Yes.
one of nine. Yeah.
Yes. There we go. So we shall go into Dark Horse, and for Dark Horse,
Yes.
I do have two for Dark Horse. The first one was an obvious one when I saw it because it's me, and I did enjoy the first run. Quick Stops is back with another mini series.
Yeah, I saw that was on there, and I did wonder with you, but I couldn't remember whether you'd enjoyed the first one or not. I know we talked about that you were reading it, but I couldn't remember how
So,
much you'd liked it.
of the 4 issues, I liked three. There was one that the story was a bit pish, but a 75% hit rate is enough for me to jump in for the second season. Um, More living in the world of the Ask You universe. And the first issue is going to be about the sacred cow, Mubi.
I did see him on the cover. I was almost slightly tempted just for that cover. I'll be honest, because I do like a movie cow. But yeah, I've said to you like in recent times, unfortunately, I've become very burnt out with anything Kevin Smith related, just because I think there's been a few big misses in the world of the movies, and I almost I wanted a long break from it because I was starting to feel like I wasn't loving the past stuff, so I haven't watched it again for a while. But almost the later stuff was sullying the original stuff, so I have
Yeah.
avoided it. But I will re-engage at some point, just not quite yet for me.
But yeah, as I said, I liked enough of the first one to sort of go in for two, and you chuck a movie on the front cover. it's that enough to just sort of twist that arm that little
I,
bit more to go.
I,
Oh,
I
go
think
on then.
the only sort of symbology from all of the Kevin Smith movies that would make me more intrigued than movie is Buddy Christ. They're the two for me. Like where I kind of go, I love the iconography that comes along with them, but yeah, just too burnt out on that stuff at the moment to want to re-engage.
Yeah, as I said, I did read Quick Stops, the first series, before watching that last film, which we will
Yeah,
never speak of.
yeah. Let's not ruin the mood.
But yeah, it said that got me in the mood to want to watch it. But
Yeah, and
because
yeah, we
it
saw
was
how that
good.
turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you have for Dark Horse?
Well, I tell you what, let's go with your second dark horse because I'm going to be honest, mine is partly to be a dick as well. So like let's end dark horse on me being a dick, which everyone loves.
So my other Dark Horse is Mortal Terror. Vampire feel flipped Dracula in which mortality means life and life means death. Vampires, Jonathan Harker, Lucy Westerner, and Nina Murray live in underground London, trying to keep the undead city safe from the rumoured mortals above who seek to give them life, only to kill them. But when the
I,
authorities refuse to believe mortals, let alone the mysterious Count Dracula, anything can become myth or legend, and everyone will die. About flipping the vampire mythos on its head, where they can bring them back from the vampire state to then kill them. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
I almost put this on. I was quite tempted by it. I like the idea of any story that brings in already fictional characters, and of course, like any of the characters from Bram Stoker's Dracula is fair game at this point.
Yeah,
So having kind of Mina and Jonathan Harker and Lucy from the book and obviously latterly the films, it did intrigue me a bit, just not quite enough. I don't know what it was. Like sometimes you go, it's so close to
yeah,
being something that I think will grab me, but it just didn't quite. So and I'm not sure why. I can't tell you why, but because there's a lot to like there. Again, I wonder for me whether this will be one where, rather than being excited about its release, I'm probably more interested enough to go. Let's see after 2, 3, 4 issues are out if people are saying good things about it, and then if it is, I'll probably pick up a trade of it at a
yeah.
later date.
So, what are your dark horses?
So the only one I have from Dark Horse is Canary #1, because Canary #1 is coming out in November and not October for anyone who follows our solicitation shows and remembers last month when Chris put a November one in October. As I said, not just to be a dick, I am actually quite interested in Canary as well, but I couldn't help but be a dick. And if you haven't seen our October solicits, feel free to go back and see what we're interested in October. And spoilers, Chris picks a non-October comic, but it's Scott Snyder. I won't go into it too much because you did talk about it in the last episode, but I like to get my hands on anything that Scott Snyder's writing. We both like him, don't we? And I think
Yeah.
he's a very good storyteller. And I think they're probably, I can't imagine him releasing a series that I'm not interested to sign on. I do think this is the first thing that he's done through Dark Horse. I think I don't remember him doing any Dark Horse stuff before. So yeah, like I'll definitely put it as a pickup of the first couple of issues and probably see where I go from there. But yeah, this one really sort of stood out for me, and also it gave me a chance to be a twat. So why wouldn't I take it up?
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Like we've never done this before, by the way, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do an audible on the show because now that I've changed the bit at the top, I'm all about it. So, and we can do this from now on. Your out of all the ones that we're interested in, all the ones that we've highlighted, what is your top pick? If you could only get one comic in November from the ones you've looked at, what one would you go for? And now that you know this, you'll have more time in future episodes to prepare this.
Oh, I'm caught between two.
Oh well, I'm interested. Go. Let's just mention both of them, and then we can maybe
So-
kind of break it down.
Dark Ride, because of how much I love the first one, and depending on
Yeah.
where we are, that and Century.
I can easily see, as you say, Dark Rider series that you really like, and I can easily see why the Century would be in there. I don't know which one I'd advise. There's that succulent nice thing about getting a new number one, isn't there?
Yep.
But also something that you're already enjoying that is starting a new storyline. Oh, a tough one to pick out of. I don't envy that choice. However, you've got to make it because you're only allowed one of them.
Fine off Century, because I'll just get Dark Ride when it all goes together as a lump.
Do you know what? Like, I was thinking about when I was saying it to you, and I was thinking that would be my answer as well. It would be, it's fine. I won't buy that in November. I'll get it as a trade, which obviously applies to anything we say here. But yeah, that's how my logic would go. Of going, oh no, stick it up your bum. I'll get the new series, and then what I'll do is I'll trade by the
Because it'll
series
then
that
match
I'm-
the other two.
yeah, look lovely. Lovely is a bit of shelf porn, wouldn't it? By the same token, for me, it's the Deviant number one. Like of all the stuff that's coming out, and there are some stories. Oh, sorry, there are some stories. There were some issues that very much intrigued me. Really keen to see what this Outsiders run is going to be like. Really keen to see what the Thunderbolts run is like. As I said, the Titans bit. A couple of really cool sounding ones from Boom. But as soon as I saw that, and bearing in mind that's still in a world that's even including the Tom King Animal Gas Can that I didn't do. It's for me, it's still the Deviant number one. James Tinian, new story, new series. Yeah, definitely
Axe
my
Murder.
pick for the month. Yeah, definitely, and Santa. So definitely my pick for this month.
So, as always, like, subscribe, ring bells, YouTube things. Comments down there. Let us know what you are looking into, forward to, and reading.
Yes, and
Ah.
if it's any of the series that we have that we said were already in their run and you've been reading them, let us know whether they're any good.
Yes.
Maybe save us a few bob, because if they're tosh and we're signing up for, so I use Wildcats for example. If you're reading Wildcats, let me know whether it's a run that's worth picking up, and am I just being suckered in by the term Court of Owls?
So, as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.